Hey guys, I'm Brittany from Quarter Acre Roots, where we talk about growing a lot on a little bit of space, which sometimes means growing in your front yard too. So today we are doing a 1-year update on our front yard lawn conversion project that we did last year. I have a video all about this conversion project last year. This was our big spring project in 2025. Now we are roughly 1 year out, maybe a little under 1 year out from when we completed this project and did all the planting. So I'm gonna give you guys an updated tour on how things are coming back in this growing season. It is late April in Maryland Zone 7A, so things are really coming to life. Okay, we're gonna start our tour on the side of the house up here because it kind of goes into the front yard. One of the things we did the first or second spring, I can't remember, was remove all of the rock landscaping from this area and put in mulch so we could actually plant here. It looks really empty right now because I took a couple things out of this last year because this right here is a passionflower vine. And if you know anything about passionflower vines, you know that they can spread prolifically. They do spread prolifically. So I thought this would be a really great spot to put our passionflower vine since it is contained by the house on one side, a driveway on the other. Over there is just steps and then more rock landscaping. And then there's a sidewalk up here. Now, passionflower vines are known to even run under driveways if they are happy and desperate enough, but I figured this would be a good idea to keep it contained. Over here, I also have the remnants of our hyacinths, and then this right here is a dwarf goldenrod, which gets really, really pretty late season yellow flowers. That is a native plant where we are, a cultivar of the straight species goldenrod. And then over here, we've got something that hasn't sprouted yet, but this is a boysenberry shrub. I have a little trellis here. I'll probably need a bigger trellis for the second year, but during the first year of this boysenberry shrub, it probably won't need too much. So I've got some sugar snap peas here just for the early season because I like to throw them everywhere in the garden. I got a giant bag of sugar snap pea seeds from a master gardener, so I thought I'm just gonna throw these everywhere that I've got a trellis in the yard, because where I put them, by the time they are finishing up for the spring, whatever else I have there is going to be taking off. So it's a really good use of succession planting and maximizing your space. And then back behind them, I also have a little Henry Wild sunflower that reseeded itself from last year. I love these sunflowers, and I've learned over the years to just kind of let them reseed themselves where I'm growing them because they are pretty prolific reseeders. We've also got a super mature creeping phlox here. This one is on the tail end of its blooming, so you will see a lot of creeping phlox in our yard, including some that are in full bloom right now. This one just gets a lot of sun, and it's one of our more mature creeping phloxes, so it tends to bloom a little bit earlier than some of my other plants. And then that leads us up here to the Japanese maple. This was here when we bought the house. It is looking really good right now because it is cooler and the sun isn't too brutal on it yet. But once we get into summer, this spot gets so much sun that this guy is really suffering. He likes a little bit more shade than what this spot can provide him. So I'm keeping it for now right here because honestly, I don't have the heart to rip it out. So he gets to live another year until I figure out what to do with this spot. That brings us over to our other front beds. You can see we got 2 late freeze warnings last night. So that's kind of done a number on a lot of our perennials that have sprouted for the season. These hydrangeas up here were all here when we purchased the home as well, and I left them in because they are beautiful. They get these really gorgeous, very vibrant, long-lasting, bright pink blooms. I've thought about doing something trellised here, but for now we've just got some black-eyed Susans. This is also something that has kind of been around in the yard for a while that I've just been moving around. It's a really common landscape plant where we are. I believe it's actually a relative of a spider plant. It's closely related to that, but I really like how the color contrasts with some of the other green and the brown mulch up here. But the real showstopper up here is this gorgeous shrub, and it gets these really, really pretty pink berries on it at the end of season. Not edible berries for us, but of course the birds can feel free to snack on whatever they'd like from my garden. But I'm looking forward to this one getting nice and big and filling out this area. It is from a native plant nursery in the Columbia, Maryland area called Lawrence, which is well worth the trip if you're within driving distance to that area. Over here, we've got some more black-eyed Susan These look really pretty when they're in full bloom. They're happy up here even though it only gets mostly morning sun. It's a pretty adaptable plant as our Maryland state flower. Behind it we have some straight species purple coneflower, which also tends to do pretty well in only partial sun up here. Back here I'm pretty sure I planted a fern, but it hasn't come back for the season yet, so we'll see what happens with that. And then over here we have a clematis that I am super excited. I put this in last year and it seems to be really taking off this year. My goal was to have it climb up and cover this whole railing here. I can't even remember the type of flower. I got this on clearance somewhere, put it in last year, thought it died, didn't really do much, and now it seems to be coming back with a vengeance. So I can't wait to see how this railing looks covered in greenery and blooms. And moving over from the beds by the house, we have the main attraction, the area that used to be all grass. You can see we kept some of the grass because we wanted to have a really intentional look with our gardens up here. We wanted it to look more like gardens and less like a lawn conversion. So we went with adding this small retaining wall. It's not super big, but it is big enough to give us some deep plantable space up there in the front and also to give it a really polished look. Obviously, this is something that is optional, but if you live really close to your neighbors and your neighbors may have lawn services, they may like their lawns, you definitely want to make sure there's a good start and stop point for your gardens. So if you are converting it and you want to stay on good terms with your neighbors, I recommend doing some sort of border on your conversion because that really helps to keep the boundaries very clear so that they can maintain their lawn and we can maintain our gardens and everyone is happy. So this is filling out really beautifully. You can see I put a lot of hyacinths up here to kind of fill out some early season color. We have some more creeping phlox up here. This one has really come into its own. I'm very, very happy with how much the phlox and the creeping thyme I've put up here have started to spread to give me more ground cover. I am all about adding ground covers. Of course, we're mulching as well, but adding ground covers really helps to conserve the moisture in the soil, to suppress especially your annual weeds. So I think it will be most helpful if I kind of showed you what's on the inside here and then walked around the perimeter. So we'll walk in this little path. And when I put in this project, I kind of tried to see where I walked when I was walking around the front yard and where I was planning to plant things, and then laid the paths first and then planted around them. And so far that has proven to be a really good strategy because we are able to access most of what we want to be accessing up here. This right here is a blackberry bush. So this whole row of pavers has blackberries up and down the sides of it, which is very exciting. It's kind of like an edible blackberry row. And then I've got a variety of other ground covers up here. I've got some perennial oregano, I've got some mounding sage, I've got some creeping thyme, lots of useful herbs that are perennial here, so come back year after year. So eventually I will need to put in some sort of trellis system for these blackberry bushes, but they haven't really taken off too much for the year yet, so I haven't really had to deal with any flopping over other than these two plants right here that I am watching. This one I actually dug up from a neighbor's yard. She let me take some mature canes because most blackberries, unless you get first year fruiting blackberries, are going to mature and fruit on their second year canes. So I got some second year canes from her garden, planted them, they survived. So I've got some first year growth coming up here and then some second year canes. This is also a second year cane right here. And then this little guy right here is a first year fruiting blackberry plant. So I really was excited to try this out because again, it can be really challenging to plant something and then wait a whole nother growing season to get anything out of it. And it can sometimes take a little while for fruits to get established. So not only are you waiting a whole growing season to get those second year canes, you might be waiting another growing season for everything to kind of get established too. So adding a first year variety is really exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing how this one performs. I only planted it like a week ago. It is from Burpee, and I will throw up the name here. I can't remember what it is, but it is specifically a first year fruiting blackberry and thornless. So I cannot wait to see how this one performs up here with all of my other blackberries. And then at the end of blackberry row here, we just have some ornamental onions. I love ornamental onions. They're such cool, interesting flowers. They remind me of like the Lorax type plants. I've got loads of creeping thyme over here. I love thyme. It is such a wonderful ground cover. And then over here, I have on the other side of blackberry row, 2 black raspberry plants. So these are not blackberries, they are black raspberries. So the leaves look a lot like regular raspberries because they are raspberries, but these fruits come out red and then they slowly turn to like a deep purplish color. And they have a little bit of an earthier taste than regular raspberries. So I have them up here with my blackberries because I like to try and keep my raspberry varieties separate. It is a good practice to keep your red and your golden raspberries at least 100 feet away from your black raspberries and your blackberries because of some viruses that can be spread by aphids between the different types of blackberries and raspberries. So I keep them up here. I'm just kind of hoping for the best because we don't really have a ton of space to separate things, but I'm hoping that having them up here will be enough to prevent any sort of spread. But that said, I know plenty of people who grow red raspberries and blackberries together with no issues for many years, so I'm sure it will be fine. And behind our black raspberries, we have a gorgeous yarrow. This is a bright red cultivar variety of the native street species white yarrow. I have yarrow all over my yard, much like creeping phlox, and a lot of cultivars of bee balm as well. This is a bee balm, can't remember what kind. I dug up some from the backyard, I dug up some from my mom's yard, and I got some new. So we'll have to see what comes back to life with things before I can make my map of all of the different varieties I have of stuff up here. And very excitingly, we can see some blooms coming to life on these end of year, super cheap season blackberry bushes that I got from Lowe's last year and threw in. These were so cheap. I have a video all about shopping for end of season clearance plants. Fall is the best time to do that. And I got a bunch of blackberry bushes, gave some away to friends. They were so cheap, I could not let them just die on the shelf. So this one is starting to show the very beginnings of flowering, which is exciting. We've got more perennial herbs, as I promised, more creeping phlox that is still in bloom and looking really gorgeous. We've got random cone flowers all around. And then one of the things I ended up doing with a lot of the space in the front yard is anywhere there was like a bare area that I'll probably be putting some sort of annual flower or my extra vegetable starts, I just threw all of my extra A-frame trellises up here and seeded some more of those sugar snap peas. They are going to help improve that soil, replenish nitrogen in it for these spaces that I've just started growing in last year, and they're going to give us something good to eat. So I'm excited about that. I'm not really sure what I'm going to plant here once everything is done. I will probably take an approach similar to what I did last year, just getting everything planted in the back and then seeing what I have room for up here. And we have, of course, a giant catmint roaring back to life here. We've got more mixtures of coneflowers and black-eyed Susan. I've got the remnants of some more hyacinths that I had planted here. This whole area right here is going to look very empty once the hyacinths are done, even after the coneflower really comes to life. I want to put something here. I was thinking about maybe putting some wave petunias. I love wave petunias. It's one of the only annuals that I buy every year. Petunias, zinnias, and French marigolds are pretty much the only annuals I mess with anymore. They will spill nicely over this retaining wall edge, so I'm thinking about that, but we'll see how things kind of come in. Jump back in here to show you guys one thing that I forgot. We ended up putting an all-in-one almond tree here. So this is starting to bud up and take off. I just ended up putting this in a couple weeks ago. So now we have two almond trees up here. One is a Hall's Hardy almond, which I'll show you guys on the other side of this garden. And then this one is an all-in-one almond. So the all-in-one almond is more of like a snacking almond, whereas the Hall's Hardy almond is more of like a bitter almond. It's a gorgeous tree though, so I actually didn't know that it was more of a bitter almond when I ordered it. I saw one in our neighbor's yard and immediately was like, I need that too. I love the fact that we can grow hardy almonds here. We can grow hardy almonds here in Maryland Zone 7A because they are grafted onto a peach rootstock. So I learned this year, it makes perfect sense when you think about it, but I learned that peaches and almonds are very closely related. Like a peach pit is basically like a giant almond that you can't eat when you look at it. They look very similar. So the hardy almond trees are almonds grafted onto a peach tree rootstock. So both of these are grafted onto peach tree rootstock, which is very interesting. I love learning more about how the trees are grown, especially fruit trees. It is definitely a rabbit hole that once you start going down, you will probably not turn back. There's just so much to learn and it's so interesting. This is a Radon's favorite aromatic aster. This is a straight species goldenrod behind it. We've got some more sage. We've got some little native grasses that I added last year. This is also from Lauren's Native Plant Nursery. This right here is the first mountain mint we are seeing in this conversion. I freaking love this perennial. This is a native plant where we are, and it has a very wide native range. This is not like putting a traditional mint in the ground. So people freaked out when I said I put mint in the ground up here. This is a very different type of mint. It does not spread and is not super invasive like the traditional kind of like peppermint or spearmint you may be thinking of. This is an aggressive plant, but it is native, so it is not invasive. And it was the perennial of the year a couple years ago because it has such great benefits for pollinators. I'll throw up a couple pictures of what it looks like when it is in bloom. It is really, really beautiful. So that will fill out some more of this area. And then over here we have, I cannot even remember what this is. It's some sort of perennial. So we'll see what comes to life. I like forgetting what I put in here and then seeing what ends up coming to life. We've got some more creeping phlox up here. My goal with adding the 2 creeping phloxes here and then the 2 creeping phloxes on the other side was just kind of to eventually have them grow into one another and just fill out this whole kind of awkward sloped area where the mulch was kind of tricky to put into these retaining wall bricks here. But it looks like it's worked out really well. And the other corners to kind of try to stabilize runoff of the mulch and whatnot here, I added some hardy hens and chicks in the corners, and that is working out really well so far. They looked kind of sad last year, but they're coming back really beautifully this year. And then just some of this, I think it's autumn glory sedum. They get really pretty flowers later in the year up here to kind of help on that sloped area as well. And these don't need any water, so it is a great choice for areas that I just kind of want to ignore. And then one more hens and chicks up here in an awkward area. These are also really weedy, strange areas, so the hens and chicks have been a really good choice to add there. And we are rounding back up here to the end of blackberry row. Look at these allium. They are just so pretty. I'm gonna cut some of these for some arrangements today. I ended up putting some more bulbs in last year because I felt bad cutting the few allium blooms that I did have, and now I have enough that I can leave some in the front yard to look gorgeous and cut some for arrangements. This up here is all hyacinths that I'm letting die off. I did zinnias along this sidewalk last year, and I will do the same this year. I just haven't seeded them yet. We've got some more phlox, we've got some shrubs, we've got one last mountain mint up here. This was also kind of an awkward area right here where the mulch meets the sidewalk. We couldn't plant very deep in here, and I wanted something that was super hardy and would tolerate the poor soil very well. So I threw a mountain mint in here and just kind of wanted to fill out this whole corner. And so far it is doing exactly that. And I wish you guys could smell what it smells like. I can smell the mint smell right now, just being this close to it. And it is such a wonderful scent. It smells exactly like a mint, but it almost has like, to me, more of like a cooling smell than a regular mint does. And right in this kind of empty space, you see a lot of empty space around here. Last year I did an obelisk bean trellis, and I'm going to do some sort of vertical structure with beans up here again to kind of provide like a focal point while some of these other things are growing in and still pretty small. All right, now for the second side. This is the bigger side of the two, and this side was also a little bit more complicated to do because there's no sidewalk that extends over here, but we wanted to have a nice path to get to the side of the yard because we do grow things over there as well. So I put in 2 paths here, one that takes you directly to the hose and to the side of the yard, and then one that takes you out into currant row. So we have blackberry row on the other side, we have currant row over here. Up here we have a lot of the things that were here when we moved in, some more of the hydrangeas, but I also added this petite oak leaf hydrangea, which is a native hydrangea here. I'm hoping that this will fill out this space really beautifully over time. An oak leaf hydrangea can get really big, but we have a window here and the space isn't super big, so I didn't want it to outgrow the space, so I got the petite oak leaf hydrangea. I'm hoping I don't regret that because now that I see it come in, I'm thinking maybe we could have had room for the actual big oak leaf hydrangea, but it's looking pretty good in its second year already, so we'll see how it fills out over time. And then another thing I did last year was, after seeing how beautiful my mom's hellebores were in her yard, I added some hellebores up here. I'll see if I can peek under here while holding the umbrella to see some of these flowers. So I love the early season blooms on these. They have really understated blooms, but it's nice to get something that blooms so early. These have been blooming for about a month already. They green up really fast and they bloom really fast. So that's nice to add in with our other early season bloomers like Phlox and the golden ragwort I'm about to show you at the end of our downspout. That is blooming like crazy. I didn't realize golden ragwort was such an early bloomer. Like, I knew it bloomed early in the spring, but it has now been in bloom for about 2 weeks here, and it's like late April, which is a really awesome early bloomer. This right here is another hydrangea. This is a smooth leaf hydrangea. It's a cultivar of some sort. So not a straight species, native. Eventually it will grow up to fill out a lot of this brick space, which is exactly what we want. We want more like statement pieces here. I mentioned the golden ragwort in our downspout. So we put a downspout extender down here. So all of the runoff would come into the garden instead of running off into the grass and down into the street. Down here at the end of the downspout, I have some more black-eyed Susan. I have some creeping thyme and our beautiful golden ragwort. Look how pretty this is. It is such a nice pop of color in the really early season, especially because I don't have many other yellow things blooming right now. And then once the blooms die off, it is a really nice ground cover. So when the blooms die off, it stays pretty low and it spreads pretty prolifically, especially in more wet spots. This is a really great rain garden type plant. So that's why I have it here in this area that stays consistently wet with the water moving away from the house when it rains. It is just a great year-round plant to have because it stays nice and green pretty late in the season and it looks really beautiful pretty early in the season. So there's a lot to love with it. We have over here some foxgloves, some native ground covers. This right here, off the top of my head, I can't remember what it is, but I'm gonna remember as soon as I turn off the video because that's how it works. Another matching shrub on this side. Some candy tuft, which is another early season bloomer. Not a native where we are, but spreads and mounds really beautifully and gives you some nice early season color. This right here is a New York ironweed, which gets a bad rap. I don't know why people don't like New York ironweed. Yes, it looks a little weedy. It is literally called New York ironweed, but it is so pretty. It can get really tall and it can get floppy. So if you like kind of cut it down, maybe in like June, it will branch a little bit more and won't be as floppy, but it has these really gorgeous clusters of bright purple flowers. And I just think it really makes a nice statement in the middle of a garden where you have a lot of other lower growing stuff. And speaking of lower growing stuff, we'll head back to the start of currant row here to show you guys what I mean by currant row. This is the first of our currants. This is probably the first or second currant I added, I can't remember. But I am so excited because look, we have tiny little currants coming in on this. This is a black currant. We have lots of little clusters of currants, which I am beyond excited about to have my family try these. They have never tried currants. I really like black currants. They have kind of like a nice earthy taste to them. So you can eat them fresh if you like the taste, or you can use them for like baking and preserves and stuff. This right here is another black currant, a different variety that I have right next to it. A little bit shorter, but a little bit bushier. And we have the starts of some nice currants coming in on this one as well. Then we have 2 red currants over here, much younger, no berries on these yet. I just planted, I got in the mail a bunch of bare root currants that I've been waiting for a long time for. So I'm excited that those have finally come in. We've got 2 red currants, 2 different varieties. And then on the other side, we have a white currant and a pink currant. So I am super excited to see how these come in. This empty patch right here is just an area that I didn't mulch and I added a bunch of leaf compost to. I've seeded a bunch of calendula seeds here. It's just such a pretty little flower and it's great for making homemade teas and whatnot. And it stays blooming really late in the season. So it's nice to kind of add some late season greenery and color to your space. Even though it's an annual, it will self-seed itself pretty prolifically. So this is kind of hopefully going to become a little calendula patch. We've got, yes, my 3rd planting of mountain mint. I had a lot of it and I split it up and I just really wanted to fill out this space, kind of like this catmint right here. Like I know they get big and unruly, but there's a lot of space here and they stay pretty low growing. So I want them to fill out the space. I hope they do their job and spread. We've got more creeping phlox. This is a parsley on its 2nd year. Parsley is a biennial, which means it takes 2 years to complete its life cycle and go to seed, flower and go to seed. I like to have parsley in alternating years, like all around my garden, because I find that when I grow dill for the black swallowtail butterflies, it's one of their host plants, it goes to seed so fast. And then I've got all these caterpillars and I'm like, what are they gonna eat? So I like to have parsley all around too, because it just stays more green for longer later in the season. This year I have several dill plants that I'm planting. I have a couple parsley plants, some that that are new this year, some that are going to seed, and then also a large bronze fennel that I added back by our ponds that I'm excited to see that take off too. It looks a lot like dill, and the flowers look a lot like dill flowers, but it gets a lot taller and it's just very billowy and nice looking. And right next to the parsley here, we've got some sort of native aster. Can't even remember what it is. We'll see what comes up this year and I'll do a better job of labeling things. And then this is the Hall's hardy almond tree that I mentioned. So you can see this one is a lot more mature than our other almond tree. And you can see exactly how much it looks like a peach tree. So you care for these very similar to how you care for a peach tree. Heavily prune it to help with airflow. It looks very dense right now, and I actually had pruned this one pretty prolifically. You can see where I pruned when it was dormant right here, because you see the new growth popping off of the older growth. So it is really happy where it is right here. This one did bloom pretty prolifically. I don't think we'll get any almonds this year, maybe next year, but we will see. As long as it's looking nice up here and it is growing tall, I am excited to have it because it's nice to see some of the plants really starting to take off. This tree is now probably about 6 feet tall, so really starting to stand out. And then back here beside current row, we have a peony here. Don't remember planting it. It's probably one of those things that I dug up from elsewhere and just threw up here in the chaos of planting during this big project. There is a lot of bare space in here, and the reason why there's a lot of bare space all in here is because this is a hazelnut shrub, and this will spread and get fairly large. So I've just kind of decided that I mostly want to plant ground covers around it and add in annuals so that, you know, as it gets bigger, I can just move out my annual planting radius all around it. I'm gonna try and prune this one to keep it a little bit more compact because, again, space, because these can get rather large if you let them, but it is roaring back to life with lots of nice growth, and I am excited to see how this one progresses this year. It is already really taking off after not doing much its first year. Right next to our hazelnut here, we have a little butterfly weed. It is just coming back to life. I'm not sure if you can see on here, but there are what appear to be 2 monarch eggs. So this is the orange kind of milkweed, so not as like weedy and seedy as your common milkweed is going to be. And I generally find that it stays a little bit more compact than like a swamp milkweed. So this one is growing back to life. And just last week I saw monarchs floating around up here and landing on it. So I thought, she's laying eggs. I'm so excited to watch this happen. And it does appear that now I've checked, there are 2 eggs on it. So that is very exciting. Always add milkweed to your garden. Make sure it's the native variety to where you're living, because you can get like tropical milkweeds and stuff like that. So look up what's native to where you are. And then we've got yet more creeping phlox and more yarrow. This is another yarrow cultivar, not the white flower kind. I will chop down these hyacinths when they are done recharging for next fall and do a row of zinnias here just like I did last year. This yarrow is really spreading exactly how I want it to though. So eventually it will spread out to the sidewalk if I let it. So I'll probably change my longer term plans of doing zinnia rows here, but for the coming growing season and probably next year too, I'll have enough room to do lots of zinnias here. It's just a really lovely walkway when they're lined with zinnias. I believe this is a coreopsis that I dug up from my mom's yard. Again, we will see what comes back. And then this peony I do remember planting. That one is a hot pink peony. I'm not a huge peony fan, to be honest with you. I don't like how they're always covered in ants. I don't like how floppy they get. They're not native plants. I'm not like a native plant snob, but if something's not a native plant, I have to like love growing it for some reason. And peonies, I just don't know why I can't stop myself from growing peonies. I always love having the giant blooms, but the ants are so annoying and they're so floppy. So I don't know, I might take them out and give them to my mom. She's better at growing cut flowers like peonies, and she grows beautiful dahlias. Another thing that I always regret growing in my yard, even though I do believe I have a dahlia over here somewhere that I planted from a tuber last year. My mom gave me some of her dinner plate dahlias, and I just need to remind myself, you're not as good at growing dahlias as your mom is. Let your mom grow the dahlias, and then you can cut some because she has so many, and you can grow other stuff. But I don't know. I see the blooms and I get weak. Happens every year. And up here, I'm also trying to decide what to do this year. I did have an elderberry shrub, which was kind of like our anchor shrub right here. But once the hyacinths die off, it's going to look pretty empty here. This is a little balloon flower that will spread but still stay pretty small. And then we've got the catmint. We've got the almond tree up here, and we've got the creeping phlox. So this area is going to look pretty empty. I may put in another like small shrub up here or something like that. Maybe even another plant that gets kind of tall, because it won't really shade anything out with the way that the sun moves on this area. And I can't remember what these are called, but this is a really great native plant. It is an awesome native ground cover. So I have these planted all around this front area. Some of them are flowering this year, some of them are not. They're all kind of in the same conditions, but some of them did look really, really rough last year when I planted them. So maybe that has something to do with it. I honestly didn't know if they all survived, and it looks like they've all come back to life and about quadrupled in size. So I'm just going to let these spread and take over here. Same thing with our purple coneflower here. Gonna let this guy spread and take over just because they are such a beautiful, beautiful native flower. Love them for cut flowers, love them for the bugs, love them for the pollinators. They are a great one to have. And then I haven't mulched the side of the yard yet, but we do have some things growing on the side of the yard. Right now, so far, we have this viburnum. This is a native viburnum, also from Lauren's nursery. It has really beautiful flowers and berries in the fall. It is roaring back to life now and has probably grown a foot since I put it in last year. This one will get pretty tall in this space and kind of anchor this corner, which is exactly what I want. Just ignore this, this dead, dying tree right here. We're still working on the side here. I have 3 tulips that are hanging on for dear life here. A lot of my tulips just haven't made it because they've been dug up and snacked on and moved elsewhere from critters. We have got over here just kind of a smattering of different things. I ended up putting my extra raspberries back here because I figured that as they spread, we can just kind of mow them down as they spread into the lawn here. And this area also gets surprisingly good sun for being on like a north end, and that's because in the afternoon it gets lots of sun. The previous owners had hostas here, and we ended up taking out the hostas just because they were getting fried. I also threw all of my extra blueberry bushes back here. I'll probably come in and dig up these daffodils and put them elsewhere to give the blueberry bushes more room. And then of course I will have to cut out some of these raspberries as they spread and encroach on the blueberry bushes. We've got another extra blueberry bush that I somehow came into ownership of and threw over here. And then some native prickly pear cactuses. These get really pretty blooms and fruits on them. There are a native cactus here. My neighbor gave me some of these, so I'm super excited to add something that is super interesting and drought tolerant and native to the side yard here. Okay guys, so that about wraps up how things are looking here in mid to late April, Maryland Zone 7A. I really hope that this accurately conveys how beautiful this looks already in the season. I always feel like the videos just don't capture how pretty everything looks in real life, and I guess that makes sense because, you know, when you're looking at it, you can kind of see everything at once, whereas the video screen, you don't really capture enough in one frame. But hopefully you guys can see how awesome everything is looking. I am so happy we did this project last year. I am really looking forward to seeing how everything matures this year. And I will definitely do an updated video at some point, probably like early summer, once everything has come in and I figure out what I want to be adding for my annuals, if there are any other perennials that I'm going to be adding up here, just kind of fine-tuning things and toying with it as they come in and mature. But I hope you guys found this helpful in seeing how it has come in the second year. If you are thinking about doing some sort of lawn conversion project, I would highly recommend it. I love it. We get so many compliments. If you don't like talking to your neighbors, don't work on your front yard because we've had a lot of people stop and ask about different things in the garden and just what we're doing and how we're doing it. So if you guys have any questions about this garden or converting grassy areas or different plants you saw that I may not have mentioned, let me know in the comments. And until my next video, happy planting.